disclosure. Sober disclosure. Breezy's a slut.
Jimmy likes it in the butt.
Are you or someone you know looking for support in recovery? Taste Recovery is your go-to directory for sober resources. Whether you're searching for treatment centers or sober living communities, Taste Recovery connects you with the right tools and support to help you on your journey. With a user-friendly platform and a comprehensive list of resources, Taste Recovery makes finding the help you need easier than ever. Start building your path to a healthier, sober life today. Visit tasterecovery.com to find the resources that work for you. Taste Recovery, your first step to a lasting positive change. Hi, everyone. I'm Breezy.
And I'm Jimmy.
And we are
Sober
Disclosure.
We're here from the flesh-eating virus from Burbank, Taylor. If you look at our arms, the heroin ate through it.
I can't believe you just said that.
Dude, you gotta own it. I think it's rad that you just came with it all out.
Yeah.
Well, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter.
No,
Who cares?
I actually wore long sleeves for a long time, and
You did wear long sleeves and stockings to the party on Sunday, and I know why, but people don't know why.
well, I also most of the the family's already seen my scars, but actually on Friday I got a CT scan of my stomach, and they were trying to get my IV. See all those 4 spots?
Oh my god!
And so
you didn't
I
want them
want
to
people
think.
to think I relapsed.
Oh, that's why you wore a long sleeve.
Yeah, because I was like, because
I
obviously
got IV
these
this
are
morning.
fresh.
Look.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. No, I had to get blood. Yeah. I understand.
Yeah, because and even the nurse when she was trying to get me, she's like, "Oh, you have a lot of scar tissue there," and I was like, "Yeah, I know."
Like, shut up,
You're
bitch.
like, duh, bitch, look at my arm.
Yeah,
Stupid.
fuck you, dumbass.
Mine was a Russian lady. She goes, "Oh, you do head." As she's stabbing my arm, I'm like, "Oh my god, that
You
hurt."
do head?
Hair.
Oh, head.
He also does head.
I do head. I haven't in a long time, babe. I think we have to do that soon.
Oh my god, give Damon a little treat.
I know.
Does
okay,
he deserve it?
so before I get into the normal questions, how did you end up here? How do we know you?
Jimmy does my aunt's hair.
I do her whole family basically.
Oh.
Yeah.
So the her aunt, both of her aunts, her other aunt too,
Yeah.
3 aunts.
My mom has 5 sisters.
Yeah, her mom has 5 sisters. And Damon, my husband, that's his clients, but also they've been friends for years with his parents too. So it's like friends of the family turned clients, turned now good friends, and they were hiding her somewhere.
Yeah,
under a rock.
I actually, purposely. No, I actually had asked. My aunts. I'm like, I need Jimmy to do my hair. They're like, oh, he lives so far and he only comes into town for us.
I mean, that is true.
You're like,
they're not lying.
But hello.
But you can come here. Because when I go there, I don't have time.
Another 3-hour drive here.
even with that?
What do you mean?
You're already with her family.
I know, that's what I said. I was like, I'll just show up the day that you're doing it.
No, but I don't have time. I have to leave by 12.
Oh, okay. To get.
We'll talk about later, but I do work at a salon in LA. Okay.
Okay, you have to wipe up this part. I'm like.
It's okay.
I'm like freezing over here.
Oh my god.
I turned the air off.
Oh.
I don't know. I feel like I'm too young to be getting hot flashes, but
Never too young for hot flashes, baby. Okay, so how much time sober do you have?
I just got 18 months on May 30th.
Wow.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
That was so recent.
Yeah. Gosh, I never thought I was going to get a year. Like when I was when I used to see people getting cakes and stuff, I was like, there's no way they haven't gone that long without doing something, you know? Like, I'm like, that's not possible. But it is possible.
Yes.
Yeah. Absolutely.
But I started the first time I went to I'm 31. The first time I went to an AA meeting, I was 18. I was a senior in high school, and some people from AA came. We had like I think it was called Red Ribbon Week or something. It was like Drug Ed Week or something like that. And they had some people from AA come and speak to our school, and a few of us, like, were asked to show them around, show them to the auditorium, stuff like that, whatever. So then we were talking, and this one guy, he was really nice. He was like, I said, oh yeah, I should probably attend those meetings. And he was like, okay, I'll take you to one tonight. And I really was like, okay, yeah, sure. Like, had no intention of going, But I didn't know that then, but AA people stick to their word. So, so he called me, like, right after, at 4 o'clock or whatever, and was like, okay, I'll pick you up at 6, text me your address. And I was like, wait, you're actually coming? I never thought I was going to hear from him again. And we went, and Steve-O was there from Jackass.
Yeah.
And it was, I literally sat there and I was like, oh, damn, I'm going to end up here. This is where I'm going to end up.
Maybe not now, but later.
But yes. I was like, I know I'm going to end up here. I knew that first meeting. I was like, I know I'm going to end up here.
What were you doing at that age? Was it drinking mainly, or?
Why
did you say I need to go there?
Well, I realized young that I didn't party like everyone else. Like my best friend in high school, she would do a line, and then that'd be it. And then I would do a line and I wouldn't stop till 6 a.m.
Yeah.
And then it even got to where, like, I'd go to parties. I knew nothing about recovery or sober or anything like that. I just literally would be like, oh, I'm not going to have one bump because then I'll have 1,000. And, like, I was already saying that.
You were trying to control it from the very beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then I remember my one guy friend was like, wow, you have willpower, like, if you couldn't, like, if, and I was like, well, I don't have willpower once I have one, but I can say no to one, but once I have one, and in NA, it's a really big, like, it's a very common saying that, one's too many and 1,000's never enough.
Yeah.
And that, when I heard that for the first time, I was like, oh, that makes sense. That's totally true for me, But when I was 15, I got prescribed painkillers because I was diagnosed with a nerve disease, like a nerve pain disease. And
so that's when it started, you abusing.
Yeah, so I was taking it as prescribed for a while, but then I, loved the feeling, so I would take more, and then I had a doctor that would just say, "Oh, you want a higher milligram? Oh, here you go, whatever, and and just went on from there." And
so, okay, you went. The guy took you to the meeting. You said, "Oh, I'm going to end up like that."
Mm-hmm.
Long story short, you didn't get sober that time.
No. I was in and out for a while.
You were in and out for a while.
And then I tried heroin when I was 17 or 8. I can't remember if it was right before that first meeting or right after, but I tried it once, and then I didn't try it again until I was 22. And I was still trying to convince myself, like, oh, well, if I did that once and didn't continue, maybe I'm not an addict, you know? And
with heroin.
Yeah.
You know, the normies on the street are just popping fucking whatever.
Well,
fine.
You know what's funny? You were saying about you guys, were talking a lot about the first year and a half, and
well, that's what we like to focus on, yeah.
Right. And so my when I first did this first year, when I was going to group therapy and stuff, I would say a lot like, my mind was so foggy and so just unclear, and I remember saying a lot like, oh, I partied, but like I didn't really, it didn't really get bad until like I started shooting up. But then once my mind got clearer, I started thinking, actually, when I went to New York Film Academy in LA, and I remember like going in. I had never tried shooting up yet, but I remember like in between classes going into the bathroom, and I had like those containers that say like Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you put pills in them.
Yeah.
So I remember I'd put like different pills in them, and I'd crush them up, and I'd put them in the bathroom and just be like, wonder which one's gonna hit me the most.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, little Russian roulette.
And I remember being like, and all those memories started coming back
as you were in group getting sober.
Yeah, so like the first 6 months.
And this is the first 6 months of this sobriety?
This time,
okay.
Yeah. The first 6 months of this time, I was kind of so, they call it the pink cloud. I was so happy. And then when that kind of came down, all these feelings came back of why I started using in the first place, and a lot of it actually had to do with a breakup I had. I was with someone that I was in love with, and he was a normie, and we basically broke up because I chose drugs over him. And I hated myself for that, because I was like, I was using a lot because I was so devastated by the breakup, but then I was also using a lot because I was like, God, I caused myself this pain. If I had just stopped, we could have worked it out, but
so would you say that the pattern, because big things that happen like that usually is the pattern in your life, would you say that you always would choose drugs over something else, and you would get upset, and then you can't deal with the feelings?
I had,
like film school.
Yes.
You chose drugs over film school.
Yes, I didn't.
So what else did you choose drugs over?
I had I've only had like 3, 4 serious relationships, and the first 2 were normies, that they were both great guys, that I loved both of them. If I were to ever see them again, it would be totally civil, and I actually called one of them, like, I hadn't talked to him in, I don't know, 10 years. I called him maybe 8 months into my sobriety. He's married and everything.
To make amends?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, nice.
And he, like always, was very gracious. He's like, there's nothing to apologize for. We were kids. He couldn't have been nicer about it. But when we got off the phone, I was like crying, and then I could tell that he could hear me crying, and I'm like, oh, I really wish I wasn't crying right now, you know? But 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 yeah, so that was good, and yeah.
That was the pattern.
That was the pattern.
Yeah, and then so the first two guys, I basically chose drugs over them, and then the third one I used with, and then the fourth one I'm with now, who's a great guy, and my aunt is like, oh, he's such a blessing. It's so great that, and I was always kind of like, oh, if I have her approval, then then he must be
then
good,
it's the good approval.
Yeah.
Then he's the one.
Yeah. And I went into treatment being like, I definitely don't want to date someone that has the same problems I do, because I know what a disaster that is and what a mess that is. And, and I'm so messed up, I'm not looking for a relationship anyway. And then in outpatient, I met my best friend. Her and I, like, kind of went through treatment together. We met in treatment, but we're still, best friends. And then, so me, her, and my now boyfriend, we would
trudging buddies.
Yes, we would go to Coffee Bean, and then we'd go to class, and then we'd go eat after, and then we'd go to a meeting, whatever. But my now boyfriend was different in that, honestly, I think he's kind of a normie. I think he just needed to process some stuff that's
and have
happened.
A little healthy community.
Yes, exactly. Like he's never tried anything more than weed, really. So he would always be like, "Oh, I'm here to stop weed," but I think he just needed to process some stuff,
Yeah.
But I was like, if I was like, thank God. I don't want to date someone that has the same issues as me. Oh my God, that's like would be so hard.
Yeah.
A lot of people think that.
That's true.
Mm-hmm.
Could you walk us through a little bit of your first year in kind of like what your sponsor kind of told you to do, and maybe you did the opposite? How'd you stay sober through it?
Well, it took me a long time to admit to her that I had a boyfriend.
Oh, yeah? What did she say about that?
Well,
why weren't you honest about that?
Well, I knew he liked me. Him and my best girlfriend, they're like siblings, and they have like a sibling relationship, and she'd always be like, tell me, he likes you. And I was like, no, I know, but I'm not even there yet,
Yeah.
But after 6 months of us still being so close, then I started to like him. And then, so my sponsor, I think, kind of was like, she would ask me a lot, like, do you like him more than a friend? And,
yeah.
And I was like, honestly, I don't know. And then when we actually became exclusive, it did take me probably like a month before I actually told her, like, oh, we're exclusive, because she made a comment like, you need to learn how to take care of yourself before you can take care of a relationship.
Yeah.
Which is totally true, and which was why in the beginning I was very like, when I did find out he liked, when he did say like, oh, do you want to go to dinner, just me and you, without, our third friend that's always there?
Yeah.
I was like, I mean, yeah, I'll go to dinner, but no expectations. I was like, so
And so then, how was that sober going to dinner
it
first
was
date?
it was good actually.
Because he was your friend.
Yes,
So it was
exactly.
comfortable.
And I think because he when like you meet someone online or something and you meet up, you kind of always put on this little best foot forward,
Totally.
like and
Yeah.
you want to give off a good first impression, which totally makes sense, but
But he already knew you were a heroin
he
slut. Bitch, don't lie. He knew everything about you.
I couldn't wrap my head around the fact that he knew everything. I mean, we were in group therapy together.
It's called
Yeah.
trauma bonding.
Yeah, totally. Totally. I watched your other podcast on that.
Oh, yeah.
I know your inside jokes now. I know what you're saying. So, you're trying to burn me?
Yes, but no.
Delulu. I'm just kidding.
Yeah.
Totally. I always laughed me so hard when I heard you kept saying that. But
That is so, no, but you guys were friends.
No, but
and then it's not
true.
like you met some random person. You guys were friends for a couple months. You weren't like,
right.
oh.
And
yeah.
You know what? What actually I was like, oh, he's so sweet. He used my car was I had totaled my car before I went to treatment, so I didn't have a car. First time since I was 16 that I didn't have a car. And I don't live on Ventura where I can just, I live
up the hill,
up on top of a mountain, you know? And so our group started at 10. He'd call, and this was now once we got to a point where like we only had to go to treatment 3 times. It wasn't every day anymore.
No,
we could go like
you had a little routine.
Yeah. So he'd call me and be like, "Do you want to go to group today? I'll pick you up." And I'm like, dead asleep, like, okay, sure, And then the first couple of times he'd come with coffee bean for us. And then I was like, oh my God, I love you, thank you.
Yeah.
And then like
coffee bean's the best.
Coffee bean is the best.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second week, he came and I noticed like he made his coffee from home, but still stopped and got me coffee bean.
Aww,
and I was like, you could have made me coffee from your house too, And he's like, no, I know you like the Frappuccino. And I'm like, oh, he's really sweet.
That is sweet.
That's very kind.
Yeah.
How much time sober did you have when you guys started dating?
Probably 6 months.
You guys both had the same amount of time.
Yeah.
You both entered treatment at the same time.
But I mean, I would not normally recommend that. I just kind of got lucky. Like, I really think he's like my life partner. Like, I just kind of got like, but I mean, I wouldn't recommend that. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I think I'm really like the one in a billion that it actually worked out. Our families actually love each other, and like my parents love him and his parents love me, and like it just kind of worked. But that's not usually true. They have a saying in NA that's like, let the newcomers get on the feet before you put them on their back.
That's true. I forgot about that.
Damn!
I used to go to NA meetings.
Honestly, I love NA for that. They have the most ratchet, raw, like sayings. It's so good. It's so good. That's so funny.
It's true. And then like I loved AA, but now that now I'm more, now I'm in NA, and when I was I love the Big Book, but in my head, whenever I because it's all about alcohol. So in my head, whenever I read alcohol, I would just change it in my mind to drugs, right?
Of course, yeah.
But
that's what we do,
right?
Or I do.
But in NA, it says very clearly in the beginning, like, alcohol is a drug, and because so many people, especially me, I did this many times where I would be like, alcohol was never my problem.
Right.
I can have a glass of wine at dinner, and I could have a glass of wine at dinner and that'd be it. But then a couple nights later, I'd have two, and once I got that sweet little buzz, I was like, oh, I'm just going to do whatever I really want to do, you know?
Yeah.
And so when I was reading the NA book, the basic text we call it, I was like, oh my god, this is so me. Like, every sentence my sponsor was like, highlight what you relate to, and I was like, I relate to every line.
Yeah.
But, yeah.
Oh, nice.
How did you start? How did that change happen? Going from AA to NA, like, what was that thought process like?
So I hear in NA a lot of people say, oh, I went to NA because, I got some strict old timer in AA that told me I wasn't allowed to talk about any substance but alcohol. And I was like, oh, really? That was not my reason at all.
Yeah.
That was not my experience. I actually loved AA and I loved my fellowship there. And then when I went to treatment, when I went to outpatient, we had group therapy, and then for like the first hour and a half, and then the second hour and a half was education. And one counselor for education always did like the cognitive behavior, the science behind it, and I learned a lot actually. And but then our other counselor for his education would do the NA steps. So he would have us, because he has 35 years clean and sober in NA, so he would have us do like the first 3 steps of NA. And he said to me, I said, oh yeah, no, I love AA. He's like, just try an NA meeting. I was like, okay. And I did. And me and my girlfriend that I keep talking about, we went, and my current boyfriend, we all went together. And it turned out my friend's aunt was like at that meeting, and then like we were hanging out with some other people that actually turned out to be the counselor who told me to go to the meeting, his sponsee. Like, it was just a coincidence, And and I don't know. And what really got me though was when I heard that saying, once too many, 1,000's never enough. I was like, oh my god, that's so true. Like, and then it was just I related to many stories in AA, but just for some reason that night, the speaker that spoke was
in the NA meeting.
In the NA meeting, like, I just really related to. And then since I was in treatment and we were doing the first 3 NA steps, I was like, okay, we'll just continue, But but I mean,
it was like easy.
Yeah.
You're like, I don't have to change the words.
Right.
I don't have to. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like modern language, but I like last week I went to 2 AA meetings and 2 NA meetings. So, so I mean, I still, and I went to an Al-Anon
and a lot of people do. A lot of people do that. And why do you go to Al-Anon?
With that look.
Tell us.
Yeah.
My mom is in recovery too. She I don't know how much I want to say.
Take your
I
time.
actually would say the whole thing, but I know if she ever saw this, she'd freaking kill me. But she is, even when I saw her, I hadn't seen her in almost a year, and she then I heard she went to detox, and I thought she actually was doing better, and I saw her, um and she told me, "Oh yeah, it was so easy for me to stop. Now that you're clean, I'm able to stop. I was only using because I couldn't see my daughter using." And I was like, "You've been using since I was 14. What are you talking about?" Like,
Yeah.
like, and that, I guess, should have been a red flag that she's still in the denial phase.
Mm-hmm.
But I wanted to believe her so badly that I stayed, and I saw her, and then I clearly caught her.
So from there, how did you stay sober through that? Did you like right after call your sponsor?
Yes, I
Okay.
actually was. Um, I freaked out,
Yeah.
and I, yeah, I freaked out. I totally freaked out, and
Mm-hmm.
then and we were actually out here. We were in Orange County, so we had like a 3 hour drive or 2 hour drive back home.
Oh shit.
And
You and your mom.
yeah, and my boyfriend, but he didn't know that had happened. I just said,
Yeah.
"Let's go." So then he was driving, and um, and he was like, "Is everything okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I just want to go home." So it was a
Yeah.
very awkward drive home. And then so in the drive home, she's like asking me about treatment center, like how my treatment center was, and I don't think she was meaning, like, consciously manipulating me, but I realized later, I think it just was a manipulation thing, that she was like, so what, so I'm gonna call your place when I get back. And then as I'm telling her how many times you have to go and how much what you have to do, she's like, "Oh, I don't have time for that, I'm way too busy."
Yeah.
And I'm just like, this is your life.
Yeah.
Like, if you're too busy for this, then, like, you're not gonna get better,
Yeah.
like. And I hear people, I think my mom thinks, like, "Oh, if I tell people at meetings that I used today, they'll judge me." But I'm like, the person that comes in and says, "Oh, I used this morning," or "I used last night," they're way closer to recovering than the person that's lying about
And the
it.
people love those people
1,000,000%.
more.
Yes,
Yeah.
totally.
We love it. We're like, come hang
Yeah.
out with us.
What are you doing right now? I'm not leaving you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I went to a women's retreat last weekend, and and now I'm on the committee to organize the next year's one, which is really cool. And so at the retreat, there was someone there that had one day clean and sober, and everyone was
That was the focus.
so like,
Yeah.
woo, like
Yeah.
cheering them on, and like very, very supportive. And my cousin then took, my, like, second or third cousin took my mom to a meeting last week. I didn't go, but I know that my mom had said, like, "Oh, I have almost 2 months or something," because she was too embarrassed to say that she really had 0 days.
Fuck, dude.
And I was just thinking, like, I get how scary it is, but at the same time, like, the person that's like comes into the rooms and is like, oh, I used this morning, like they're way closer to recovering than the person that's lying about it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I had someone in my treatment center, and he reminded me a lot of my mom. The only difference was that he was actually saying everything he was doing.
Yeah.
You know? And my mom's extremely good at hiding it. She's so pretty, and she's so nice and generous, and no one would believe that meeting her that what she's doing is what she's doing.
How do you stay sober through it? Because I
Oh,
know,
yes. Okay.
because you're saying your mom is struggling and everything, and we know now that we can't help people like that, but you can always love them,
Yes,
right? And then
yes.
if you can be there for them, but how do you? And that's why you're going to Al-Anon.
Yeah. So I that week I hadn't. Sorry. Okay. So before, every time I had relapsed, so many times. I had tried to get clean and sober so many times, and I would only get like a week, maybe a few days, and then because any family stuff, not even family stuff, friend stuff, anything would trigger me,
Relationships.
any friendship, anything. I would get mad, and sometimes I noticed I would pick a fight or subconsciously start a fight on purpose so that I had an excuse to use. Like I would like start a fight with my parents so that I had an excuse to storm out and
not talk to them for a long time.
Yes.
Yeah. Make it their fault.
Yes. Yeah. And I had an excuse to leave and go pick up or whatever,
So then what are you doing differently?
So this time actually my aunt, she lives close to my dad's house, and the first 2 months, every day she would pick me up and take me to my outpatient, and we would listen to positive affirmations on the way. And if it wasn't for those 2 months, I probably would have just gone back into like my old habits. But really, those 2 months set the course for me being able to stay clean and sober. Because when people always recommend affirmations, but I never really did it. And then when we would do it in the car on the way there, it like made the rest of my day positive, because you talk about like, what you're grateful for, and whatever type of affirmations you like, but it really puts you into a positive state of mind. And that was kind of when I understood what people said when they said one day at a time. I used to get really irritated when people would say, do it one day at a time, because I was like, what? That's stupid. Like, you have to you have to plan your life. Like, I did not understand until we started doing the affirmations, and then I realized like yeah, you have plans, for your life, but like with being clean and sober, if you just think about that day, it's so much easier. And I used to future trip a lot. Like, I used to purposely not want to get time because I didn't want to relapse and lose that time. So I thought it would be just better to relapse before I get time. Do you know what I mean? Like, it was just my my addictive thinking way of trying to uh rationalize not going to meetings and not doing the work, because I would try and rationalize and justify my addiction any way I could, which is, why they say that addiction is a disease, not a mental illness, because it's a defect of the organ of the brain, right? So you that's all has to do with it. And we were learning in treatment the science behind it, how you can literally retrain your brain to think positive instead of negative, and you can actually see it on a scan. Different parts light up, and the more you do the gratitude list and the affirmations and the inventory, the more like the positive neural pathways light up. I'm not a scientist. I don't know if I'm saying this exactly correct, but practice does help, because I used to always go straight to the worst thinking or the negative thinking, or if I go up and get a 30-day chip and then I relapse, people are going to notice and care about me, so I'd rather just not get the chip and not have people care about me, so then I can relapse and not feel.
Which is probably exactly what your mom's doing.
Yeah. I never even. Yeah. Because my first sponsor in AA, she I was like 18, and she was young too, but she had a few years of sobriety, and she had told me, like, if you go in the middle, if you put yourself in the middle of the program, in the middle of having friends and meetings and stuff, you won't, there's a less likely chance you'll relapse. And I remember thinking, like, but I want to relapse. Like,
yeah, bitch, I'm not staying. What the fuck you talking about?
I want to kind of change the topic a little bit.
Change it, baby.
Yeah, go ahead.
I want to hear about, you said you did the affirmations, your aunt picked you up.
Yes.
Did having a higher power come naturally for you in the beginning, or did you have to find that? Or get closer?
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Okay, so I actually always my mom would took me to church when I was young.
Okay.
And
so that's how you built a relationship.
Right. And
okay.
I actually always I always prayed. I always, even when I was using, I a lot of people in the rooms, struggle with the higher power thing. That was never one of my struggles, but I realized that I realized that I need to, sorry, I'm stuttering. I used to pray that, God, please make me not be an addict, or please,
selfish
stuff like
prayers.
Yeah, and like but then at the same time, 5 minutes later, I'm like, please, dear God, let my dealer call me back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
no, for sure.
And I realized, like, I used to think of I still do think of, like, my thoughts as prayers. Like, sometimes when I'm talking to myself by myself in the car, like, I still think of that
as a form of meditation.
Yeah, I still think of that as like praying to my higher power. But
so coming into the room, was it easy for you to be like, oh, I have a higher power?
Yeah.
I'm connected to them.
Yes, I did always feel connected to a higher power, but definitely since I've been clean and sober, I've really understood what it means to like live through God's will and through a higher power of your understanding, because um now with a clear head, it's so easy to see like the miracles around you, and like the signs. Like this is again just a personal thing, like I see signs so much that is like, you know, like that's my higher power telling me that he heard me, or he's here, or listening, or he or she or whatever you believe is with me,
Yeah. Same.
Me too. Yeah. Conscious contact.
Conscious contact.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I thought you had a question. So I don't know if we actually answered the question about your mom. The fact that what was the question that you had asked her specifically? It was like, do you feel like, how are you staying sober through it?
During that part.
Right now.
Yeah, the fact that you're literally going through.
Yeah, this just happened.
Yeah.
Trauma. Well, regardless, like just a parent getting loaded is like extremely hard and traumatizing. Like, how, like, she threw it back in your face of like, I got loaded because you were getting loaded. You could easily have that exact same excuse. How are you choosing to have a different perspective?
When she said that to me, I was going to say, well, actually, no, it's the opposite.
Yeah.
But because I've been working the program, I bit my tongue. I didn't say that.
Pause when agitated.
Yes. And I later look back and think, like, was I just feeding into her denial? Maybe I should have said that. Or was that me taking the mature route? I'm not sure. I still kind of question stuff like that. But I definitely, when that had happened, so a year and a half ago, when I was in outpatient and I was going to meetings on weekend, me and my now boyfriend, who was just my friend at the time, and my other girlfriend, they lived, right next to my mom. So we would pick up my mom and take her to all the meetings with us. We would do all this, stuff together, and then after a meeting, we all went to get, a burger or whatever, and I caught her again. And I just that the look in her eyes made me think. It just reminded me of a specific incident where I mean, this happened to me many, many, many times, but one specific time I used, and I didn't know why. That time I was like, why didn't I just wait 30 minutes and then it would have been fine, But like, instead I had to do it right then and there, and I screwed everything up. And it was like that same look, and that's kind of when I realized, like,
she's just powerless.
Yes.
So you put yourself in her shoes.
Yeah, and then I called my sponsor, and
what did she say?
Well, she at first, I think, was very, very like, at first she was like, oh my God, I can't believe she put you in that position. At first was very like,
Mama bear.
Defensive for me. But then she was like, okay, read the first chapter of, in the book, and
which is
about
powerless over alcohol.
Yeah. And if you realize that if you're powerless over your own addiction, you're definitely powerless over someone
theirs.
else's addiction,
Yeah.
right? And I had another friend who has a lot of time that really knows the literature and everything, and she told me, addicts, when they're still using, they're still using, they're still in their disease, they're still doing all the things that you did when you were in your disease, and there's nothing really you can do about it. And it was honestly, I I felt I felt dumb, honestly. I felt like I can't even believe that because looking back, there were signs where, like, I probably shouldn't have given her that other chance that I did, because it's happened so many times. But obviously, I wanted that. I was hoping that was going to be true. Um, and so now I had to block her number again. And
That's how you stay sober.
yeah, I had to.
We implement boundaries.
Yes, boundaries was very hard for me. You know, that was really hard for me. When I was younger, when I was like 14, 15, my mom had back surgery, and she was prescribed a bunch of painkillers and I didn't know what any of that stuff was. And I remember I had an older friend come over for dinner, and my mom went in the kitchen or something, and I was like, I'm sorry, my mom's acting so weird, like, because up until then, my mom was the best mom. She was
Yeah.
always on time to pick me up, took me to ballet, gymnastics, tutoring, like, you know, um, cooked dinner, whatever, everything was great. And then I'm so resentful to this back surgery, because I feel like that started all of this, and so she got prescribed painkillers. And so when I said to my friend, I'm sorry, my mom's acting kind of weird. I don't know. She's been kind of acting weird lately. I don't know why. And he's like, oh, that's okay. She's high. And I was like, moms don't get high. What are you talking about? And he was like, yeah, come here. And, like, on the bathroom shelf was, like, just the pill bottles. And he's like, yeah, see, look. And I'm like, oh, those are from a doctor. You can't get high off of what a doctor gives you. Like, I'm so naive, innocent. I knew nothing. And he's like, yeah, you can. Like, and I felt like I got punched in the stomach. It was like the worst feeling I'd ever had. I resented that moment for years. I resented myself for inviting him over. I resented him for telling me. I resented the doctors. I resented everything. And it wasn't until I was like 18, 19 that I went to therapy and actually, like, got over that moment. Like, that moment haunted me for so many years. And then I when things, like, didn't get better, I remember my stepdad telling me, like, because I lived half with my mom and half with my dad, and I remember my stepdad telling me, like, you should go live with your dad full time, because you know and but I was like, no, I can't do that. I can't leave her, like, I thought I could protect her. And I and they always say no one tries to be an addict, but I when that happened, it was just a coincidence that my mom had this Lifetime movie on. I think she probably thought I was asleep next to her, and it was about some teenager addicted to prescription pills, and my mom said under her breath, like, or the mom was, I don't know, this is a movie about drugs, pills or whatever, and my mom was like, oh, I would never do that to my daughter or something. She said that under her breath, and in my head, I'm like, you are doing that to me. And then I consciously was like, I'm gonna take her pills until she realizes, and then we'll both stop once she stops. So I had this, and I even remember that week asking my dad, so why can't addicts and alcoholics stop if they want to stop? And he was like, oh, well, it's more complicated than that. And my dad's a big normie. He really didn't know anything about addiction until I started having my issues.
Yeah.
So he'll have like a quarter of a light beer and that's it. And I remember asking him that, and him being like, oh, well, it's more complicated than that. You know, he didn't go into much detail because he probably thought, oh, I'm so young, you know. And I remember thinking, like, I'm going to be the one that stops when I want to stop. Like, I'm just going to do it until my mom and until my mom stops, then I'll stop, and that'll be it, you know? No idea that this was leading into a lifelong issue, you know? And it wasn't until like this time I've been clean and sober that I understand what people say when they're like, oh, I'm a grateful alcoholic or a grateful recovering addict, because I was so resentful. But now, like, I'm so grateful for the friends I have, and you know, really, people with time and stuff, they actually look at how they can better themselves at the end of every day and take in. I mean, normal people don't do that, you know. They're like
they don't think about themselves
like,
at all.
Screw you, like,
yeah, they're like, bye. Yeah. I hurt you, block. Never hear from them again. They live joyful lives.
Yes, I'm right, you're wrong.
Yeah, they'll never think about me ever again. And I'm like over here, like sitting, spewing on it for 5 years. So true, so true.
I told my dad was all angry about something, and I was like, Dad, being angry is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
He's like, where'd you hear that from? NA.
I love it.
Yes, we did actually.
Yeah.
Well, we have to wrap up, but our one final question that we always ask everyone. So we try to like gear it towards your own personal situation. So for that daughter who is going through something similar with a parent who is still addicted, and they're trying to get sober themselves, can you offer that person a little bit of advice?
I would say reach out to someone. I never told anyone because I don't know if I was embarrassed or if I just thought I wasn't allowed to, or I thought I shouldn't, or I'm not supposed to. But and I thought that would do more harm than good, but I was wrong. If you can reach out to someone, a counselor at school, or a family member you trust, you really could save your family's life. Like, telling on someone is not snitching. It's you know,
saving their life.
Yes.
Secrets keep everyone sick.
Yeah.
And you know what?
It's true. You're only as sick as your secrets.
When people are honest, especially in families, you're helping them. Mm-hmm. But when you're not honest, you're holding secrets for them.
Yeah.
And then what I say is blow their shit up. Blow it up. Who gives a fuck?
It's true. I have such a loving and supportive family, and I feel like maybe if I had confided in them sooner, it could have been a lot different. You know.
Well, that's great advice. Thank you for coming in, Taylor.
Actually, it's
Thank
really
you.
good advice.
I know, yeah.
I love
she
that.
said a counselor, someone
yeah.
close.
Yeah, I'm sitting here thinking, like, who do I need to talk to? And I'm just kidding. All right, well, thank you so much for listening. And if you feel like you know someone who could help by listening to this episode, please share it with your friends or family. And as always, I'm Breezy.
And I'm Jimmy.
And we are Sober
Disclosure.
Disclosure.
Yay.
Perfect.
Ding, ding,
Is
ding,
Lola
ding.
the aunt that took you?
No,
Or
Jacqueline.
Renee?
Jacqueline, actually.
Are they all in the program?
No.
None of them.
No, none of them.
But-
Jacqueline.
Breezy. This episode is brought to you by Light Salon, Orange County's premier destination for expert hair color. At Light Salon, we specialize in creating stunning custom color transformations that highlight your natural beauty. Owned and operated by passionate, sober stylists, we bring authenticity, creativity, and precision to every client experience. Light Salon.